and it took me a half an hour to kill her. I thought I was going to be able to choke her out and have her out in like a couple minutes.
The words were heard from a secret recording, captured in the cramped space of a car parked on the side of the road. The speaker did not tremble. His voice was calm, almost emotionless. For the police, this was the turning point that turned the seemingly simple disappearance case into an unprecedentedly complex mystery. Nearly 2 months ago, a car was found abandoned on the Route 35 bridge in Neptune, New Jersey. It was late at night, not raining, but freezing cold. The car was not broken down, nor did it show any signs of an accident. Everything was too calm, too absurd. The owner of the car was Sarah Stern, 19 years old, an art-loving, introverted girl who often spent time painting and hanging her own paintings in her bedroom. Sarah had no enemies, nor was she in debt. She had just finished high school and planned to study graphic design. Friends said that Sarah was still smiling and talking normally that day, but some people insisted that she was worried about something. The police began to investigate, but no one saw her leave the bridge. There were no cameras recording, no phone, no wallet, and especially there was no body. If no one saw anything, if there were no clear traces, then who was the person who said that sentence? December 2nd, 2016, began like any other day for Sarah Stern. According to neighbors and acquaintances, she left her house that morning without incident. However, a security camera at a house across the street captured her car driving near the Route 35 bridge around midnight, a time that would become the focus of the investigation. Before the car appeared on the bridge, Sarah was last seen at her home. A close friend came to see her that afternoon, and no one knew what happened next. What was strange was that, according to information from relatives, Sarah seemed to have taken a large sum of cash from the house, something she had never done before. No one knew what the money was for, and there was no evidence that she had any luggage or plans to travel far. Around 11 p.m., a witness living near the bridge said he heard strange sounds, like a car door opening and some voices arguing, but the noise was not clear enough to identify anyone. He thought it was just a conversation between young people passing by on the weekend, so he did not immediately report it to the police. On social media, the last message from Sarah's account was sent in the early evening. The content was normal, but after that time, she did not respond to any messages or calls. Her phone was also disconnected, and the signal could no longer be located. Within hours of the car being found, the police quickly searched the surrounding area. They found tire tracks running close to the railing, but there was no debris, no skid marks, and no one standing near the area recorded by traffic cameras. This detail makes the self-fall hypothesis more unbelievable than ever. Sarah's friends, when called to help, expressed shock. Some said she had been more quiet than usual. Others recalled a minor spat with an old friend, but no one thought it was suspicious. One of her closest friends volunteered to help with the search, accompanied the police to the scene, and participated in interviews, all in a calm manner. Yet it was that calmness that later raised questions. Someone seemed to be withholding part of the truth. Someone who might have been with Sarah in her final hours, but was not telling her everything they knew. And even though there was no direct evidence at the time, the pieces began to come together from the silence. On the morning of December 3rd, 2016, as the sun was just rising above the skyline of the coastal town of Belmar, a driver passing by the Route 35 bridge noticed something unusual. A silver Honda Civic was parked quietly on the side of the bridge, right next to the guardrail facing the Shark River. It wasn't raining, the road was dry, but the car was there, no one inside, and there was no apparent reason for it to be parked in the middle of nowhere. The driver didn't let it slide. He called 911 and calmly explained what happened. "There's a car on the bridge, no one there. I don't know what's going on, but it seems strange." The local police force was immediately on the scene. The car was identified as that of 19-year-old Sarah Stern. The doors were unlocked, the keys were in the ignition, and her handbag was still on the seat. There were no signs of a struggle or disturbance inside. Although no body was found, police did not rule out the possibility that she had jumped into the river to take her own life. There had been several similar incidents in the area in the past. That same morning, police went to Sarah's house to verify the situation. Her family confirmed that she had not returned home since the previous night and could not be reached. Sarah's phone was disconnected. According to information from the bank, she had just withdrawn a relatively large sum of cash, a detail that further added to the runaway hypothesis. Rescuers immediately launched a search of the Shark River. Divers, sonar, and even sniffer dogs were brought to the scene. But after several days of searching, there was still no sign of Sarah. Friends and acquaintances began to gather at the bridge area to support. Some were confused, others expressed concern. Several interviews show Sarah's two closest friends, Liam McAtasney and Preston Taylor, joining the family in the search. They share memories, express grief, and encourage others to spread the word. Initially, the police believed it was a case of self-imposed exile or a disappearance without any evidence of foul play. But as they began to review the friends' statements, it became clear that some people's composure was too much for investigators to ignore. In particular, one person said he knew Sarah had no intention of leaving, but could not explain why. Little did anyone know that those initial statements, seemingly innocent cooperation, would be the starting point for a completely different course of action in the investigation. When the search in Shark River turned up nothing, the Monmouth County Police began to change their focus. They were no longer dealing with a simple missing person case. Amid the neat details, an unlocked car, property left intact, no trace of her leaving, investigators realized this was not a runaway or an accident. Something had been staged, and it was done well. One by one, the last people who had seen Sarah Stern were called in to give statements. Among them was Liam McAtasney, Sarah's longtime best friend, who had gone to school with her and had been a regular at her house. At the same time, Preston Taylor, Liam's best friend and a short-time date with Sarah, was called in to help with information. The police began to ask two obvious questions. Who had a motive? Who had access? Sarah had been living alone after her father moved to Florida. She had almost no direct relatives around her. In the eyes of many, Liam was one of the few people who knew Sarah's habits and routine. He had no criminal record, nor did he show any obvious signs of abnormality, but it was Liam's composure that caught the attention of investigators. During his first interrogation, Liam said he had spoken to Sarah on the afternoon of December 2nd, but denied seeing her afterwards. He was cooperative, answered properly, and even suggested a few search directions. However, one small detail made the police suspicious. He was very specific about where the car was parked, even though he had never been given the exact information. Preston Taylor answered questions fluently, but his account of the time and route of travel did not match the GPS signal from his phone. The police began to reanalyze the data around the Route 35 bridge. There was no camera recording the moment Sarah got out of the car. No one was seen leaving the bridge at the time of the incident. Her closest friends, the ones who had been the most worried, seemed to know too many details that should have been known only to an insider. There was no body, no bloody scene. But the police knew that if the killer was someone they knew, he might make a mistake. Psychologically, instead of forcing a confession, they chose a different strategy: verbal entrapment. They approached another friend in the group, Anthony Curry, a young filmmaker who Liam had once trusted. Liam had once told Curry about a movie script that revolved around the perfect murder, and that was what made Curry cringe. During one conversation, Liam had described a fantasy plan that was too similar to Sarah's disappearance: strangling, taking the money, dumping the body over a bridge. At first, Curry thought it was a joke, but when it actually happened, he went to the police. A plan was hatched. Curry agreed to help the police record a real conversation using a hidden camera in his car.
I had planned Sarah's situation for me to be interrogated by cops. Like, that was the whole part of my plan, to make me look not guilty.
What did you have going on?
You didn't hear about it? It was all over the news.
Right, but I didn't know if you didn't.
Yeah. And the worst part is, we threw her off the bridge, and the body never showed up.
It's probably frozen.
Alright, so I'm hanging out with her. She has, we went to the bank, she took some money out, not all of her money. We're counting it out, and then she goes, to walk out the front door. I choke her out. I choked her out, and then she was just laying there having a seizure or something.
In the car parked quietly in a parking lot, Liam began to recount every detail, how he strangled Sarah, where the money was hidden, and the time she remained motionless. There was no trembling, no hesitation. Every word seemed premeditated. It was no longer fiction, it was an undeniable confession. When the video was extracted, the police had a golden piece of evidence in their hands. But to close the case, they needed to confirm more specific details. They summoned Preston Taylor again. Initially, he stuck to his old story, but after hours of questioning, when he learned about the video of Liam's confession, Preston bowed his head and began to tell the truth.
He says that she had anywhere from upwards of $100,000 left to her in cash from her mom.
Okay. Where did she get the money?
From her mom when she passed away. She found this is his story. She found a box in their old house in Avalon that they keep just for storage that had a note, a whole bunch of money. And he wanted to try to get his hands on as much as possible.
According to Preston, Liam was the mastermind. They knew Sarah might have an inheritance from her mother, around $100,000.
And that was it. And it wasn't until about a month or two later he said that he was coming up with the idea.
Okay. What did he tell you he planned on doing?
Taking her out and then find somewhere to dispose of the body. He asked me to help him get her into a car. And he drove her car up the bridge with her. I just came up behind her.
Liam planned to kill her and take the money. After the crime, he called Preston to help move the body. They put Sarah in the car, drove to the Route 35 bridge in the middle of the night, and dumped the body in the river. Liam then drove the victim's car back to the scene and staged it as a suicide. Preston's testimony matched Liam's confession video in every detail. Both were arrested shortly thereafter. Police also obtained text messages, phone location, and timestamps for the entire trip that night. When the final investigation report was released, the local people were shocked. A young girl had disappeared without a trace. Her two best friends who had been by her side were the ones who created the perfect story to cover up her wrongdoings. And if it weren't for a hidden camera and a brave and alert friend, the truth would have been buried in the river forever. The trial of Liam McAtasney officially opened in January 2019, more than 2 years after Sarah Stern went missing. During that time, prosecutors and investigators had been quietly building a solid case. A videotaped confession, testimony from co-defendant Preston Taylor, location data, phone usage times, all combining to build a complete picture of a premeditated murder. On the first day, the courtroom was packed. Family and friends of the victim, reporters, law students, and local residents were all present. Many people who had never met Sarah Stern also came, as the story of the girl who disappeared without a trace and the terrifying confession video went viral. One of the most shocking moments came when the video was shown to the jury. In the cramped confines of a car, Liam's cold voice rang out, recounting the process of killing Sarah as if talking about a scene from a movie. The courtroom fell silent. Some of the victims' relatives had to leave their seats, unable to bear the emotion. The defense attorney tried to turn around the possibility of fabrication in the video, suggesting that Preston Taylor's testimony may have come from a desire to get a lighter sentence. However, the prosecution argued that every detail in the testimony matched up. From the timestamp, the route traveled to the smallest points, such as the location of the car on the bridge. This was not a random statement, but a precise, undeniable chain of evidence. After days of debate, the trial ended with the verdict. Liam McAtasney was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Each other since, I believe, grammar school. So on count 1, murder in the first degree, it's life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Count 2 is robbery in the first degree. This sentence will run concurrently, meaning at the same time. It's 20 years New Jersey State Prison. And count 5, desecrating human remains as second degrees. That's 10 years consecutive to the other counts, to count 1 especially.
Preston Taylor, who cooperated with the investigation and pleaded guilty, was sentenced to 18 years in prison. The public reaction was a wave of anger and grief. Not only was Sarah a promising young woman, but the perpetrator was the person she had trusted the most. In several interviews after the trial, Sarah's father, Michael Stern, expressed his desire for justice to be more than just a verdict, but also a lesson in trust, vigilance, and the power of the community to stand up and demand the truth. Despite no body or clear crime scene, Sarah Stern's case was successfully concluded, a testament to the value of psychological evidence, spontaneous testimony, and the patience of those seeking justice. Sarah Stern left this world quietly, without a trace, without a chance to say a final word to her father, friends, or anyone who loved her. To many, she was just a name on the evening news. But to her family and the Neptune City community, Sarah was the greatest regret, a young, creative, kind girl taken away by an unexpected betrayal. Nothing can replace that loss. Her family has no place to leave flowers, no grave to visit on the anniversary of her death. They live with the same invisible, but no less persistent pain, the pain of not knowing where their child lies. And the tragedy becomes even more bitter when the ones who caused it all are the very faces that were once close, who used to laugh and talk like friends. The Sarah Stern case is not just a story of crime, but also a sobering reminder of trust and the fine line between friendship and exploitation. It shows that sometimes the people closest to us can be the ones hiding our deepest motives, even when they appear to be as kind and caring as everyone else. It also highlights the importance of technology, of human intuition, and of courage, like Anthony Curry, who faced his fears to bring the truth to light. A hidden camera video changed the course of an investigation. Without that evidence, would justice have been served? And in the end, the question remains: how many criminals are living among us, simply because no one has asked the right questions? Or worse, how many missing persons cases go unsolved because those involved are not brave enough to speak up, as Anthony did? Sarah's story cannot be changed, but how we perceive and guard from here absolutely can.